Hello, everybody. How are you? I would like to start by saying that you are not broken because you resist change. There is nothing wrong with you if you hesitate to like upend your life or environment to do something new, right? Because your life, our life, all of our lives are full of patterns and people and activities that provide this sense of comfort, right? A sense of stability. And all of those things provide your brain with the sense of safety that it wants. But if we only seek the safety of what we know, we don't grow. And if we stay in places, in jobs and careers that burn us out or that are not safe physically or emotionally, and if we stay in those places because it is what we know, that's going to hurt our health. It hurts our happiness and it impacts our relationships in a negative way. So it limits our opportunity for a more rewarding life, for a growing business, or to have a deeper impact on the things that we care about. So this is why change is so vital to our growth and to our joy. So, welcome back to Launch Your Business Live, where we make making money online clear and simple and successful so you can build wealth and independence, so you can work from home and turn that part time business into your full time income. Now, I am your guide, your Sherpa, maybe? I don't know. And my name is Marianne Lombardi. I am the founder and CEO of Marianne Lombardi Coaching. I'm an author. I'm the single parent of the coolest teenager on the planet. I've been helping small business owners thrive for 20 plus years. I probably should move that to 25 plus years because I'm just kind of getting up there. But yeah, so 25 years, let's say that. And my mission is to do the same for you. So let's jump right in. And as we get started, I want you to grab a piece of paper because we're going to do a short little exercise in the middle here. So have that paper, pencil, or your notes app, whatever works for you, ready to go as we go through this. So here's the deal. Our brain wants us to be safe and stable and secure. When it perceives that we are not safe, stable, and secure, it gets in protect mode. And if it feels threatened, it's going to do that fight, flee, freeze, that kind of thing to protect that stability and to avoid change. So our brains are not wired to embrace change. They're not built to run directly toward risk. And that aversion to change, that aversion to risk is like hardwired into our operating system, that it's based on eons of surviving harsh living conditions where risk and change could get you killed by a tiger, right? So now most of us are not living as hunter-gatherers. We're not surviving in the wild, but our brains don't always know that. So this is important because it reminds us that change is hard for a reason. So let's talk about the two things that impact our ability to embrace change. One of them is fear. A big one is fear, and the other is uncertainty. So let's get into that fear. So fear is universal, right? Everybody feels it. Our fear is going to rise when we feel threatened, physically, mentally, emotionally. So that fear is there to help us prepare to deal with some oncoming harm or something we perceive as harm. So change often feels like a threat at first. And when we're afraid, we're going to do a lot of things to avoid or postpone or hide from or stop that feeling. And we're going to take or not take all sorts of actions to avoid those fears. And fear may start in our mind, but it is felt all through our body, right? Fear makes us nervous. It can cause an upset stomach. It can increase our heart rate. It affects our sleep, and it does all sorts of things to our body. And the more we hide from that fear, the more we avoid that, our fear, the longer it sits with us, we sit in that physical and mental impacts of that fear. So the longer we avoid taking action to do whatever it is we're afraid of doing or we're avoiding, like starting our side business or leaving our job or reaching our goals or changing our life, right? The more we avoid that, the more we sit in those physical, mental, and emotional impacts of that fear. So it's important to think of fear as your friend and not your enemy. So when you feel that fear coming on, it presents you with this really kind of beautiful opportunity to better understand what is going on for you. So if we give our fear some attention, if we sit down with it, like, grab a cup of coffee or a cocktail with it and sit down and listen to what it has to tell you. So don't hide from it, just embrace it. So I would like for you to give your fear some attention right now because your fear feels a little lonely. It's feeling neglected and it wants some attention. So I want you to try this exercise with me. I do this often. I do this for myself, especially when fears are coming up that like I'm not expecting. There's certain things that I regularly fear, but sometimes fear will start hitting me. I'm not exactly sure what's going on. And so I still do this exercise for myself. And I do it with clients too. So grab a piece of paper, notebook, notes app, whatever it is that works for you. And I want you to do this with me. If you are a transitioning teacher, if you are looking to do something new, start something, you're looking to maybe you're leaving your classroom or education altogether, you're trying to you want to start a business, that kind of thing, and it's exciting and scary. I want you to think about why. So grab that piece of paper. I want you to write down what scares you about it. I want you to write that down. Don't take for granted what you think scares you about it. I want you to write it down. So don't think about it, just write. It's like free writing. Just write the first thing that comes to mind. Nothing is stupid. Nothing is right. Nothing is wrong. Don't judge, just write. What are you scared about? Take 60 seconds. I don't want you to think too hard and write down anything that comes to mind. 60 seconds. I'm looking at my clock right here. Just write it down. What scares you about leaving your job? What scares you about starting your business? Anything that comes to mind. All right, 20 more seconds. What scares you about quitting? About not being in a school classroom anymore? About not calling yourself a teacher anymore? About hanging up a digital shingle and starting a business? What scares you? Now, I want you to look at what you wrote. Now, if anybody is out there and want to tell me what you wrote, that would be really awesome. Can anyone put in the comments what you wrote? If you're comfortable sharing, please leave it in the comments. I did this with a client the other day, and there's a couple things that came up with them. One of them was no money. So when I asked them, like, what are you scared of if you leave your job? They're a teacher, and they're wanting to start a business, and so they're still employed right now, and so they're starting a business, but they're looking to quit that business at the end of the year, so they have a little bridge time to work on their business as they also look for another job, right? So that's where they are right now. And when we did this the other day, they said the things that came up for them were no money, loss of friends, no meaning. Who am I without teacher, without being a teacher? Yep. Whitney, my main source of income will be gone, right? No money. What if I fail? Was the other thing that came up for her. The other one I thought that was interesting, and so did she, was that my husband will be mad at me. That was one of the things that came up for her. And the other one was I won't have stuff to do during the day. And then another one, my favorite one that she wrote was, what will I complain about? And we laughed about that one. Doing it alone, Cheryl says, leaving what I'm great at. What do I do next? Was another one that came up for her, right? All of these things are totally honest fears that you have. Now, once you know your fear, not having benefits, right? Leaving my job without having benefits or that sense of security as a single mom, failing to keep a steady and stable income, right? So the money piece is a big piece of the leaving the job thing, right? And once you know your fear and you get it out of your brain and out of your body, a couple of things start happening, right? One, it starts to alleviate the pressure. Now, it doesn't solve the problem yet, but it starts to alleviate the pressure because it's like that iconic teapot sort of metaphor. The more a fear stay inside, the more the pressure grows and it grows. And if we don't do something about it, we're going to scream, right? Like if we don't take the pressure off, like everything is going to boil over. So writing it down starts to take the pressure off of our brain and our body and it gets it on paper. And by getting it on paper, it becomes more manageable. Because a big part of our fear is anticipatory, right? We anticipate what is going to happen. We anticipate the conversations that we are going to have. We anticipate the not having any money and never being able to see a doctor because we don't have benefits and all of that kind of stuff. We anticipate that discomfort. We anticipate the actions that we're going to have to take. And in the moment, maybe we don't know what those actions are. We don't know how to solve those problems. And even if we do know what to do, there's a lot of things to do. And if we don't know what to do first, then that stresses us out. And then if we're burnt out and overstressed, all of this stuff gets harder, right? And we just want to scream because it's all so overwhelming. So we have to get it out of our body, out of our mind, and onto paper because it's much more manageable if we do that. Because when we look at our fears on paper in front of us, it's easier to address them. And that lessens the overwhelm because we can look at the things that we can take action on. And we can have an honest conversation with ourselves about the stuff that's on that list because some of your fears will be pretty understandable. Money, benefits, loss of identity, these kind of things those are kind of understandable fears, right? Like we got to address those. But some of your fears might be kind of weird. Some might be a little goofy. Some may seem like a little less severe after you write them down. Like when they're in your mind and in your body, they may like feel huge. But after you write them down, you're kind of like, okay, well, maybe that's not as bad, right? Maybe that's not as bad. Like I can weed through that and just focus on the money, benefits, loss of identity, those kind of things. I can just focus on the big ones, right? Because those are serious concerns. So you circle those fears. So circle those fears. I love this. Nothing scares me about leaving TJ. Yeah, yeah. Okay. I wonder if there's other things that scare you though about that. But maybe not. And that's a great place to be. For those of us who have those fears about stable income, as Annie says, failing to keep things afloat financially for my family, you circle the fears that are the serious concerns and you can address them directly, right? And ask yourself these questions. If that fear comes true, what is the consequence to me and my family, right? If I can't support my family, what is the consequence to that? If that fear come true, what actions will I take? How will those actions alleviate my fear, right? So what are the actions I can take to alleviate my fear? And then you can follow up with these questions. If that fear does not come true, how will that impact me and my family, right? If my fear that I won't be able to keep my family afloat and that I won't have benefits does not come true, what's the impact? That's kind of great. It means that my family will be okay and that we will be able to go on vacation and we will be able to pay our bills. If that fear does not come true, what actions will I be able to take? I can, get a new car maybe. I can do that vacation. I can, right? Like those are some of the actions that I can take. I can relax, right? If that fear does not come true, how am I going to feel? Relief, maybe. Because most often we have a negativity bias, right? We're always thinking about the worst case scenario. And this isn't always bad, right? Because it can help us regulate our option, weighs the pros and cons, and often, but often we forget to follow that up with what if the best thing that could happen, right? What's the best thing that could happen? We need to look at both of the potential negative outcomes and the positive outcomes when we are addressing those fear, right? Because it's possible that you will be able to support yourself and your family, that you will be able to replace that income that you lost, that you will be able to be something different than a teacher, right? Have a new identity that is attached to something else. And maybe that will be beautiful. Maybe that will be wonderful, right? And one of the things that comes up when you write down your fears is uncertainty, right? Like you just don't know what to expect, what to do, how to do it. And that is super scary. And it can feel debilitating and keep you stuck, especially if you are in that burnout cycle. Everything is harder. But remember, there will always be a bit of uncertainty in our lives. There's no way to get around that. Some of us have a higher tolerance for it, and some of us have a lower tolerance. Neither one is better or worse. They're just true. So, managing the uncertainty requires you to take a look at your relationship with control. Now, my relationship with control is getting less dysfunctional the older I get. I've worked really hard to identify, to learn what is and is not in my control because I got some control issues. And the truth is that we have less control than we think, but we have more control than we use because we do have the power to direct and shape the change in our lives. We're not powerless. The key is managing your uncertainty. The key to managing that uncertainty is to identify what you can control and what you can't, and then letting go of the things you can't control because we waste an enormous amount of time, an enormous amount of emotional energy beating our head against the wall, trying to control people, trying to control things and actions that are just not in our control to impact. So, and that time costs us dearly. That energy depletion costs us dearly. So when my control issues rear their temperamental head, I say to myself this statement. I wrote this statement like years ago, and I still use it all the time. When I feel that overwhelming sense of trying to hold on to something too tight and control, I say, do what you can, let go of the rest. You are not in control, and you are powerless nonetheless. Do what you can, let go of the rest. You are not in control and you are powerless nonetheless. I say that to myself over and over and over again. So today we talked about resisting change is totally normal. And you are not broken if you resist it. It's just completely normal. We all feel that way. We have talked about how making friends with your fear, getting to know those fears will help you alleviate the pressure. It will help make dealing with them more manageable and help you take action. We've also talked about how identifying what you can and cannot control will help you navigate that uncertainty. And that Marianne has control issues and she's always working on them. We've also talked about that. So I want to make sure that you breathe, that you treat yourself as the beautiful work in progress that you are, and that you embrace the change the best way that you can, because amazing things are on the other side of that change. So thank you for spending a little time with me today. Thank you for doing the little exercise, and I'll see you next week. All right. Bye.